You saw Edleman start with just a Temple of Malady, a little look in there on accident. Brad Nelson, Jeff Hoagland doing battle. Perhaps we'll have time to get to that backup match in a little bit.
Jeff Hoagland's deck also one of the talks of the tournament.
Oh, absolutely. He's having a great tournament. Let's see what's next here for Mize in just a moment. Edleman off to a really slow start. And, you know, truth be told, this is the kind of matchup that Mize wants to play against. This is part of the reason this deck exists.
So, you know, the removal doesn't really get started until the third turn of the game. There's one copy of Ultimate Price, but for the most part, the coast is clear for Logan to do his thing over the first couple of turns of the game. That means that if he's able to get something into play on turn 1, enchant on turn 2, and hold up protection from there, there's not a whole lot for Bruce to do. And 3 main deck copies of Languish, not going to be a premier removal spell here in most spots because Heroic is very good at pushing creatures past 4 toughness.
The Trailblazer is basically Languish proof. It starts as an 0-4. Here's Abzan Charm. See if Mize has a God's Willing for this. See him sifting through his hand. The answer is no. So Abzan Charm will take care of that. We're going to head back Logan's way. Turn number 4 here for Mize. Good start, but the creature was taken care of. And there's a Plains.
Although now this is the spot where Languish could actually be powerful. Yeah. Logan might be in a spot where he has to cast 2 creatures if he can protect a threat from 1 removal spell.
His hand looks very creature heavy too. You see him play Battle-Wise Hoplite and a Seeker of the Way. There's a land. Is it time for perhaps Languish? It is. That's going to clear away those. What an effect that card is going to have on this format. Temple of Enlightenment, the draw. He'll start by playing that. He'll get the Scry. Top card goes to the bottom very quickly here for Mize. The follow-up is a Hero of Iroas. And he'll just pass the turn back.
And a lot of this goes back to the third turn of the game where Bruce just cast the Abzan Charm. I've seen a lot of Abzan players in spots like this say, okay, well, I'm going to wait for a Thoughtseize, or I'm going to wait to play a removal spell, untap, play another removal spell to try to overwhelm a God's Willing. And Bruce felt, well, it's probably not going to get better for me the longer this goes on. And there's only so many God's Willings in the deck to begin with. So it's good to just try to push through that as soon as possible. Logan had nothing, and then that set the table for the Languish to be very good.
Here's a Siege Rhino. Mize looks like he might start with an Ordeal of Heliod. Logan has always really been a big fan of 8 Ordeal builds. 4 Ordeal of Thassa and 4 Ordeal of Heliod.
And no splash either. A lot of people have moved to Bant for Dromoka's command.
Yeah. So there's Ordeal of Heliod. Going to make that hero into a 3/3. It's coming in as a 4/4. Daring Siege Rhino on a block.
And even with just playing the 2-color build here, Logan's still on 4 copies of Mana Confluence. He really values being able to cast things on time. And a lot more redundancy than you see typically out of these lists, particularly with the main deck Ordeal of Heliod's.
That might be the way that he gets his game against the hyper-aggressive decks that we expected to show up here that haven't really, by playing 4 copies of that card main deck. And outside of you talking about a Tarka Red a little earlier today,
even matchups like Dragons, though, Ordeal of Heliod is among your better cards. It's all red removal, and the matchup is often just a damage race.
Yep. But we have seen so little as far as aggressive strategies are concerned this weekend. It's almost been a little strange.
I know we had one build of a Tarka Red making a deep run was 9-1 at one point, but don't know if that player is still hanging out near the top tables.
And this is going to search up a forest. A couple turns away from flipping. There is forest. Mize will draw. There's a temple. Take a look at the top card. That's going to stay on top. In we go. 10 life to be gained here by Mize. And this is going to block, or at least try to. Yep. Now all Mize can do is pass the turn back. Can't tell if Mize has a weak hand or a strong hand at this point. Here comes Rhino.
Well, we know he had no protection on the third turn of the game, but there's been a lot of draw steps since then.
Yeah. Edleman has multiple copies of Hero's Downfall in hand. Also has an Abzan Charm too. Problem here for him is he doesn't have 6 mana to be able to play 2 spells in 1 turn.
With 6 mana, he would be in great shape. Because he could just chain 2 removal spells in 1 turn. That's very hard for Logan to answer. As it stands, he's just in 1 spell turn territory. Now, he does have Tassiker in hand, which is a nice threat to be able to add to the table. But Bruce really constrained right now by only having 5 mana. A 6-1 would make a world of difference with all the 3 mana removal in his hand.
Logan oddly constrained because he has Johnny's Presence in hand, which does not work well against Abzan Charm. He looks like he does have a copy of God's Willing here, however. No, he looks a little hesitant to cast it. All right, he will. That'll trigger Heroic. And he'll get the Scry as well. Logan's last 2 cards, the Johnny's Presence I mentioned, and it's Stubborn Denial. I think maybe he was trying to figure out which card he wanted to use there.
Well, the upshot of using the God's Willing is now the Hero of Iroh is a 6/6, and it represents a 2-turn clock.
Okay.
Because if he uses Stubborn Denial there, that's not triggering Heroic, and he has a 5-power creature with Bruce at 11. So if the cards are relatively close in value, I think that's a tiebreaker for Logan, is just get this to a 2-turn clock.
There's Tassiger, exiles the entire graveyard of Edleman. And now we go back to Mize. Flooded Strand, the card in hand, to go along with the Ajani's Presence and Stubborn Denial. In comes the Hero. See if Edleman wants to block with Tassiger or not. He took that very quickly. It's going to go down to 5. Might as well play the Flooded Strand past the turn back. How do you feel about playing the land there?
So what are the considerations here? It's essentially, do you hold it back to bluff versus what happens if you find a card drawer? It feels narrow to me either way.
Yeah.
And it's possible he's trying to represent a soft hand. Because if Bruce goes to attack and then tries to play 2 removal spells, Logan has him beat. So there could be an incentive here for Logan to feign weakness. Like, I'm flooding out, just attack and cast your removal spells.
Sure. Let's see what's next here for Edleman. He did find land number 6 finally. And he, I believe, has enough black mana to do what he wants to do here. He's going to start with Hero's Downfall. This is really good sequencing by him for what it's worth, by doing this first before even attacking.
Yeah, he's got to know whether or not this is good.
Yeah. Really smart. There's a Johnny's Presence. Now here is Abzan Charm. Stubborn Denial will take care of that. And now Bruce can afford to attack with 1, get some damage in.
He's dead to all the same cards.
Yep.
So, get in some damage this turn.
Might as well draw. Come on in. Tassiger's got a block. And we'll see what Mize drew, if anything. Looks like he drew another copy of Hero of Iroh, so he'll play that, pass the turn back. A lot of Hero's Downfalls in Edleman's hand here. He'll cast one. Get the big hero out of here. What's interesting here is if he wants to cast the other one, because if he does, he has to take 2 damage to go down to 1 to do it. And it would get Hero of Our Rose off the table. And it looks like he says okay.
It's the same 2 damage either way, because he's either attacking with Siege Rhino and taking 2 from the hero, or he's casting Hero's Downfall that turn. And by casting the Downfall this turn, he has to worry about much fewer draws going forward. All the spells are turned on.
I suppose what the argument I would make there is he could just say, Hero's Downfall, your big one. Don't attack with Siege Rhino, pass with Hero's Downfall mana at the ready. But I also don't know, does he want to do that?
But how long are you willing to play that game for? If he goes untap, draw a card, say go, what's your plan next turn? Untap and cast Hero's Downfall, I guess?
Maybe draw and reassess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe that's better. I don't know. I just err on the side of what Bruce did.
Well, he went down to 1. Now he's got a Courser. And he's at 2. He draws a Siege Rhino. Top card of the deck is Temple of Silence. Logan wanted the information. He's going to concede the game. So Bruce Edleman's going to win game number 1 here over Logan Mize. Abzan Control does win game number 1 over White Blue Heroic. Very close game 1 there between these 2 players.
Yep. And given how disastrous the start was for Logan and just how many removal spells Bruce brought to the table, that was a surprisingly close game.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, that's about as good as it's going to get for Bruce on the draw. He was able to kill the first threat, languish 2 more creatures, and then had how many Abzan Charms and Hero's Downfalls over the course of the next couple turns? 4 or 5? I mean, and it was still a squeaker there.
Drew quite a few, and he needed to get to 6 mana when he did.
Yep.
We take a look at the sideboard now. We will start with Logan Mize's heroic deck, where you won't find any new cards.
2 copies of Monastery Mentor, 2 copies of Seeker of the Way, and Ajani's Presence, 2 copies of Treasure Cruise, 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, 2 copies of Stubborn Denial, 2 copies of Stratus Walk, a Triton Tactics, and a Logan and Trailblazer. I think you're definitely going to see the additional counter spells come in here. Stubborn Denial is very efficient at fighting the 3 mana removal spells, and Disdainful Stroke can catch Siege Rhino and some other big plays. The 2 copies of Treasure Cruise also very well suited for this matchup because it goes on for a very long time. Ajani's Presence does some work against Hero's Downfall specifically. And I think 2 copies of Monastery and Mentor could also come in this matchup. It's not very good against Languish, and that might relegate it to the sideboard. But it's another card alongside Treasure Cruise that situates Logan to be able to more effectively play a long game.
Look at the sideboard here for Bruce. He's got 2 Ultimate Price, 3 Fleecemane Lion, 2 Dramoka's Command, 2 Arishan Cleric, another end, a Crux of Fated Duress, Nugan the Spirit Dragon, and this a World Waker, and a Sorin Solemn Visitor. Some pretty good options here.
Some really solid options here. I can get behind the Duress. I think the other end's a little slow, but still worth bringing in. I think the 2 copies of Ultimate Price are excellent for this matchup. And I think you honestly can justify bringing in the Ugin. I know it's slow, 8 mana is a lot for this matchup, but it's a lock against a deck like Logan's, and he might be better served having that card in his deck rather than some of the more expensive, clunkier cards.
If Ugin resolves, it's lights out.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, it is very, very expensive. So we'll see if Bruce does want to bring that in as we get ready to take a look at the Season 4 schedule here on the Open Series. We'll be starting things off in Cincinnati for a little Modern action. After that, we'll go to Worcester for some Standard action, Little Milwaukee, take a stop in Indianapolis, and then how about Atlanta? What are your favorite stops?
We go to Atlanta, then Legacy and St. Louis, back to Dallas and Philadelphia for Modern and Standard. We head to a Grand Prix sealed in Atlanta, November 13th and 15th. We'll have more information for that event as we get a little bit closer. A Standard Open Series event in Kansas City, then back to New Jersey for Legacy. Denver for the first time in a very long time, December 5 through 6. Then after that, we go to Las Vegas for the Season 4 Invitational. That used to be Seattle. It will now be in Las Vegas. Standard and Modern as the Invitational format with a 2-day $20,000 Open Series event that will be Standard. And then after that, the Players' Championship, Roanoke, Virginia, December 19th and 20th.
Now keep in mind that Kansas City date that was added, you saw no coverage team there. It was a late addition to Season 4. So that is a tournament that's going to go uncovered, but it is still going to be a tournament that we do have in KC.
Yes.
So plan accordingly, and as Patrick did mention, that Season 4 Invitational will be in Las Vegas, not in Seattle this year.
Sort of bad news for you, because I know you live in Seattle, but also good news for you.
Whoa. What are you trying to say about me in Las Vegas?
If you were a gambling man, not to say that you are, but if you were a gambling man,
yeah,
there are worse cities to spend a weekend.
There are, and by weekend you mean a full week. But yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. If I were to gamble during basketball season in Las Vegas.
Right, just if hypothetical,
yeah,
it's a good place to be for a week or possibly more.
For me.
For you.
If those were things that I liked to do. Yeah. Again, as we always say here, clarification is key.
Yes.
Should be a fun tournament, as it always is in Las Vegas.
Drive out through the desert.
Is it? So you lived in San Diego before, now you live in LA. Is it about still the same drive?
It's about the same 4 and a 4.5 hour drive.
Okay.
It's not appreciably different.
For some reason, I really want to take that drive because it is just through the desert, and then I imagine like you're
You
through the
fall
desert, and then a big city appears.
Kinda, yeah. You fall off the face of the earth pretty fast.
Yeah, do you get a signal out there on the phone?
I haven't really tried. I mean, I assume.
Well, I watch movies, so I just.
They need to have signal out there because otherwise people would just die on the side of the freeway all the time.
Yeah, so that's my fear. That's my fear. It's like when I went camping. When we had our 2 weeks off, I went camping for one of the weekends, and just like I watch movies, so I have an irrational fear of like, oh no, someone's just going to come to our campsite. But that's not a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful in northern Washington. Camping's actually way more fun than I thought it would be.
I've never done it right, so I can't say.
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be horrible, and it was actually a lot of fun. I turned off my phone, something I haven't done ever. I didn't look at my phone for like a day and a half, and just disconnected.
It's cathartic, I've spent a couple days periodically going without, the internet and specifically social media. You know what I found out?
What's that?
My life goes on just fine.
It really does. It really does. You don't need to see the next tweet.
It's fine.
From networking company.
My life's fine, It's okay. Go do my thing.
You'll be okay. Looks like both players are going to take a mulligan here.
Did you see the latest Magic drama on Reddit? No, I was just busy, living my life.
Yeah.
so I missed that.
Yeah. I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll be all right. Someone will tell me on Monday.
And I'd actually prefer if you didn't tell me. Because, I'm just living my life. Don't know what to tell you.
One basic mountain at a time. See if these players can find 6-card hands that they're happy with. Logan giving a long look. Nope. Bruce is happy enough.
And these mulligans become so much more punishing post-board because Bruce is just chock full of one-for-one answers to things. And once Logan runs out of threats or protection, it's pretty easy for Bruce to take control of the game.
See Logan, the Florida player, taking a mulligan down to 5 here, 25-year-old from Orlando, Florida. So you saw him a little earlier today. Psychology student, a golf, a bowler, a baseball player. His baseball season, I know he's enjoying that. He's got an invitational top 8 last year during season 2 and 4 Open Series top 8s. He wins here. He can make it a 5th one.
Yes.
So he'll be able to draw in the next round, but he's down a game and mulligan to 5. So we're going to find out here what he's capable of. Someone who kind of flies under the radar, but a really, really good player from the Florida area.
He's not the most gregarious personality.
Not at all.
And most of the damage he does, on the Open Series and qualifying for the Players' Championship, a lot of it has to do with local IQs, but he's sharp, and his hit rate when he does attend Opens is very, very good.
It really is. See if Logan can find 5.
Satisfied enough.
I call that the reluctant Florida keep. Yeah. Fine. Temple Malady here for Bruce. Let's see where this card's going to go. I tell you, I can't wait for the sweats with the new Scry mulligan rule. Because now you have to look at those 5 cards and then go, oh come on, Scry, I need you. Battlewise Hoplite to start here for Logan. Bruce with a windswept Heath past the turn back. Battlewise coming in. This is one spot where Ultimate Price will not get the job done. So we'll see how much Logan wants to move in on Battlewise Hoplite if he even has the option to. There's a Hero of Eros. Bruce is going to sacrifice that windswept Heath. Forester Plains coming. Edleman on draw. Got a basic Plains there with the windswept Heath. There's a Forest. That is a Nissa. Time for Bruce to search up a Forest. Old checklist cards lame. New checklist cards are cool.
Well, the old ones were necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just a lot of them. So a lot of flip cards, that is. So they were not easy to figure out via coverage, and the markings could be weird. But with only 5 and them being color-coded, much easier to track.
Here come the knuckleheads. This is going to try to block Battlewise hot play. We'll see how successful this is. Nope. Here's an Johnny's presence. That'll give Logan a counter, allow him to scry with Battlewise hot plate's heroic trigger.
But these are, even though this looks a little bad on the surface for Bruce, these are the kind of exchanges he's thrilled with.
Yeah.
When he can use his creatures to bleed out cards like God's Willing and Ajani's Presence, that makes it more and more likely that his hero's downfalls and ultimate prices and so forth connect, and that's really what he's going for here.
You know, a lot of the time we look at Stubborn Denial as this card in heroic that can be a hard counter. But, you know, for example, if Bruce were to play a Black Source and cast Languish this turn, Stubborn Denial wouldn't be a hard counter, but it would be because he wouldn't have the 1 mana to pay.
Yeah. But the flip side of that is how many turns are you willing to give up playing around it?
Yeah.
Because if you're too passive playing around Stubborn Denial, well, that gives Logan an opportunity to grow a creature to 4 power, and then it's just a counter spell for the remainder of the game. So there are certain spots where it's worth just playing into the 4 spike because eventually it's going to become a hard counter anyway.
Siege Rhino cannot be hit by Stubborn Denial. That does resolve. See, life totals here 18-17 in favor of Edleman. Mize will have to reevaluate some things now. Big 4/5 body on the battlefield. Here comes Battlewise hot plate. See if Edleman has any interest in blocking. A card like Ajani's Presence would make him lose in combat. Follow up a Seeker of the Way, pass the turn back. Edleman will draw. Has Obzon Charm in hand, a couple of lands, also a Den Protector. Looks like quite a few lands over there for Bruce. There is Obzon Charm. I will say the timing of the removal spells here by Bruce all seem to be pretty good.
Yep. And I like him leading off with Obzon Charm as much as possible because it just limits the number of answers Logan can have.
Got the job done there.
Any indestructible effects, for example, they don't work.
Yeah, we saw last game.
Yeah.
Ajani's Presence did not get to do anything. And I think on that 3rd turn, when Logan had the Laguna Band Trailblazer that was a little bit big, I think he had Ajani's Presence for protection, and it was an Obzon Charm that took care of that. So, Monastery Mentor is something that will allow Mize to go wide, depending on the draws that he has.
I was interested to see if Logan was going to bring this card in because it's pretty poor against Languish. But if you're just suiting up for a long game in general, then it can be pretty good. Now, this is a spot where you can see Logan's body language. He's mulligan to 5, and he has to play the cards in his hand. He knows he's beat if Languish is the card here. But if Bruce is thinking about it, that's a pretty good sign.
Sandstep Citadel is the play here for Edleman. He's got a Morph. We know that's a Den Protector. I think Logan will probably be able to deduce that as well, as Deathness Raptor would be actually really good to cast face up here. Now, we are working our way into a bit of a later game. You think this favors one player over the other?
Definitely Bruce. You know, the game is played in such a way right now where Logan can't make any attacks. And generally speaking, you want to be the person, you know, where the other person has to initiate the action. You want to be the heroic player where your opponent has to tap out for removal spells. And with a game like this, Logan kind of has to move first to grow his creatures, and that makes Bruce's removal spells much more powerful. Logan also has basically no graveyard to speak of, and one of the most powerful cards in his deck in this spot is Treasure Cruise, and he's pretty far away from that being a factor.
Here's Ordeal. That'll bring a Monk token along with it. Jacob Wilson in the house. Our Season 1 champion here on the Open Series. Can't forget that there's some prowess triggers as well for Seeker of the Way and Monastery Mentor. And now Ajani's Presence is being cast. So, another Monk token. Another prowess trigger, and a heroic counter.
Now we're looking at 5/5s.
Yeah.
And these things can start attacking into Siege Rhino.
Things change in a hurry.
Yeah.
As they oftentimes do with Heroic.
Not a shabby last 2 cards there for Logan, given the
Nope.
circumstances.
And Bruce, he's only got green and white mana open, so Logan doesn't have to really worry about a mobile spell outside of Jamoka's command. And I think if Bruce had it, I think he would have cast it by now, so we'll see. This deck can get some certain draw steps where it can really just turn a game around really quick, and Monster Inventor is playing a huge role, and Logan may have drawn something really nice off of this Ordeal of Thassa's. He's already reaching for some mana. Yeah, Defiant Strike is pretty good. That's going to trigger prowess again for both creatures and get him another token.
And what's so crazy about this is you see the last card in Bruce's hand, or one of the last cards, is Elspeth. And Elspeth isn't even that exciting here, because when the creatures get to Bruce's turn, with the exception of the hero, they're all going to be less than 4 power. But all the creatures are capable of growing to such a size that Elspeth generating a bunch of tokens doesn't even necessarily matter.
Just another Defiant Strike.
That's just a kill.
That just, wow.
Okay.
All right, Logan Mize.
I take back everything I said about the game looking pretty good for Bruce, and it's, Logan's got to force the action here. I mean, if those are going to be your 4 cards there, then,
Well, technically, Logan did force the action.
Yeah.
So there you go. Logan Mize going to win game number 2 here over Bruce Edleman.
Sure, whatever.
This deck can really, it can just do stuff like that sometimes. And a lot of the times when we see that, I remember watching Ross Merriam going wide with Monster Inventor in Cleveland. That reminded me so much of that, of just, all right, Monster Inventor, it seems so innocent at the beginning, and all of a sudden it's shooting out tokens, prowess triggers are happening everywhere, and it's such a perfect card for this kind of deck.
It was very impressive there.
Absolutely.
Again, it is not the best threat that you can have against a deck packing Languish. That can come up, but Bruce didn't have it, and it took exactly 1 turn for it to go out of control.
We took a look at the Season 4 schedule here in the Open Series. That's coming up soon enough. But we'll take a look at Season 3, where we did start things off in Charlotte in June, where Michael Malone did win that Grand Prix. And then, of course, we went to Indianapolis, where Eric Real got the job done with his Green-Red Dragons deck. In Baltimore, Andrew Boswell finally got his first Open Series title with Obzon Aggro. And now we're here in Chicago, where it looks like we're going to have a pretty good top 8.
It's looking pretty loaded. After Chicago next week, we're going to be in Richmond for a Standard Open. We're going to take a week off for the regional championships. Again, StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. After that, we go to Washington, D.C. for a Legacy Open Series event, a Standard Grand Prix in London, back to Charlotte for a Modern Open Series event, and then the Season 3 Invitational in New Jersey, Standard and Legacy as the invitational formats, with a 2-day $20,000 Standard Open Series event, August 28th through the 30th.
Looking forward to all those dates. And, of course, if you play in any main events in the Open Series, you will get the Tassiper, the Golden Paw playmat with our good friend.
Bananas the Slave Dog.
There he is. Free.
Hanging out.
Just free and available.
Blissfully unaware of his own state of circumstances or mortality. Plenty of analogies to be drawn there. And this is free with any entry to a Season 3 Open Series event. Not for the first X people who sign up. We don't mail it to you after the fact. Just comes with the entry. Free.
I'm using the F word a lot this weekend.
We certainly have.
Just been dropping it in. Everything is just free, including Tassiper with Bananas the Slave Dog. Again, this is the Season 3 playmat as we get ready here for game number 3. Mize able to, I don't want to say he stole that one, just a good set of draw steps.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like he stole it, but it spiraled out of control real fast.
You can see that it's tough for Bruce to play defense with his creatures, even his quality creatures, because Logan is capable of growing things so large. And you also got to see the efficiency of Logan's tricks as well. I mean, he's paying 1 mana in a lot of spots where Bruce is paying 3.
That's the difference. Well, both players are going to take a look at their opening hands. Keep in mind, Logan did mulligan to 5 that game.
Yes.
Can't forget about that, too. It's a pretty impressive win.
Especially for a deck like this where, the stereotype is it mulligans so poorly because your colored mana is a little sensitive and you need to have the right threats and the right protection and some pump spells and all that kind of stuff. It's not a deck on the surface that appears that mulligans well, but Logan had kind of a perfect set of cards there.
It came together really nicely.
It was 5 cards, but it was close to the perfect 5 cards. And then there was some perfect 4 cards somewhere else down the line.
Sansom Citadel here for Edleman. That's how he'll start things for game number 3. Let's see what's next here for Mr. Mize and how he'll begin things. Does he have a favorite hoplite, or perhaps the Laguna Band Trailblazer. It'll be a Temple of Enlightenment to start. He'll scry to the bottom. Players with plenty of time to finish this third game. And for Edleman, he's basically already a lock for the top 8.
Yeah, look at that record.
Yeah.
And it shows you just how wide the gap is right now and how tough the records are going to be. There's no one at X and 1 for Bruce to play.
Yeah. Might also show you just how good Obzon control is now, too. For Logan, if he's able to win this match, he'll be able to draw in next round and be part of what looks to be a pretty star-studded top 8 here in Chicago. Favorite hoplite there for Mize. Edleman with land number 3 and Nissa number 1. Forrest on the way. Again, he is playing 3 copies of Nissa Vastwoods here this weekend.
We've seen 2 to 3, I think, in every Obzon list that we've covered thus far.
Yep.
And 4 Forest appears to become the industry standard. Some consequences of this, we're seeing fewer copies of Bioplate. Double Black's a little less reliable in the decks with 4 Forests.
Defiant Strike at the end, a turn there from Mize. He wants to draw a card and make his favorite hoplite a little bit bigger. And he'll draw for the turn. What will be interesting is just what happens to Corsair Crewfix over the next couple of weeks. Because all these decks have Languish, and Languish side by side with Corsair, well, that's the old non-bow.
It's a little awkward, and Dramoka's command is also a concern as well. But for the time being, it looks like people are kind of sucking up the awkwardness for the time being. We are seeing 4 copies of Corsair alongside main deck Languish.
Ordeal Thassa allowed Mize to put 2 counters on his favorite hoplite, 1 from the road trigger, 1 from attacking. Also has 2 brand new cards. Question, I suppose, is does he have a 3rd land to play? It appears that he does with the Plains. He'll play Mana Confluence instead, pass the turn back. This allows him to represent something like Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, this is showing maximum strength in this spot. If he plays the Plains, Bruce only has to worry about God's Willing and Ajani's Presence. By playing Mana Confluence now, he has to worry about Stubborn Denial as well, and this may compel Bruce to just cast something like Siege Rhino instead of spending his turn trying to go for a removal spell.
Which might be exactly what Logan wants.
Exactly. If Logan has no protection right now, playing the Mana Confluence is a much stronger play than playing the Plains. And it kind of works the opposite way. If he has God's Willing in hand, and this is a good turn mana efficiency-wise for him to use it, he may play the Plains to get Bruce to think, well, I don't have to worry about Stubborn Denial. This is a good spot for me to go for a removal spell and eat up his whole turn that way.
A lot to think about.
Even with just Plains versus Mana Confluence, there's a lot of information to be sent to your opponent and a lot of information that your opponent can send back at you.
A Temple is how Bruce will start his turn. He'll scry. Looks like he's going to leave that card on top before passing the turn back. But 3 mana available here for Edleman, so representing some strength. We'll see how Mize wants to move. It's this weird kind of jockeying for position, but this is a pretty straightforward turn for Bruce. He's going to chump block right away with Nissa. It's a Battle-Wise Hoplite. Now Mize is able to leave 2 mana open. I always love watching the really good heroic players play. They're really good at picking their spots and just trying to show a lot of strength with their hand.
Yeah, the deck is so much about get out in front first, and then it's my 1 mana trading with your 3 mana over and over again. And when you see the people who are very skilled at doing that execute it well, it's very nice to watch.
Obzon Charm's going to get the job done there. Ultimate Price, I believe, was the draw here for Edleman. Again, that does not line up well against Battle-Wise Hoplite. Lines up very well against the rest of the creatures. This is another Nissa. Search for a Forest yet again.
I was going to say the chump block on the previous turn felt a little preemptive to me, but this explains it.
Not the flashiest card around, but it is a good one, is Nissa.
Some pretty solid value at most stages of the game.
It's weird to say that I haven't been impressed, but I haven't been unimpressed either. It's just a solid card.
Yeah.
It does feel very Borderland Ranger-esque. But you can do a lot more with that, as we've seen a couple times this weekend. Defiant Strike here.
It may be helpful to think of it as a card with kicker.
Okay.
You know, even though you don't actually have to pay the kicker cost, which is another
little
bonus.
Sure. Like when Kabu Titan was a card, you were playing a lot more then.
Yeah.
You know, that was a card that was, I mean, a 2-mana 2/2, but, you know, it could be a 5 and a 5/5 trampler.
Right, which it never was because the best cards in Standard were Repulse and Exclude. But I understand what your point is.
Sure.
In theory, if you happen to be playing against red-green guy, it's sometimes a 5/5.
Which it never was is great. All right, I guess I'll bounce it and draw a card.
Yeah. It wouldn't even get excluded because they would repulse it, hoping you would do it again the next turn. Then they would exclude it. But I understand theoretically what your point is.
I thought I was making a good point.
If Kavu Titan existed now, it probably wouldn't get played. But if you had a playable version of Kavu Titan, you would see, you know, the front half and the back half in equal measure.
So what you're saying is it probably wouldn't be $20.
No.
No. The flexible grizzly bear. Mize got a 5/5 Battle Wise Hoplite that's coming on in. He's able to draw some cards there from Ordeal of Thassa. We're playing Island. He's doing a nice job of pacing this game.
Though I will say for, you know, as kind of guaranteed value-ish as Nissa is, it's felt pretty poor in this matchup. I don't feel like Bruce has the kind of time to be spending 3 mana getting a land, and it's not an effective blocker.
An effective chump blocker, maybe, but not a real blocker.
3 mana is a lot to pay for search for a forest, put in your hand, and chump block once. And there's not even a guarantee he gets a chump block in certain spots.
Sure.
Because Logan has, you know, Aqueous Form and so forth.
Looks like our friend Bruce has a question to ask here as he's rocking the boat, hitting the cameras. He's going to take a step away.
The vulnerability of Nissa is, are you playing against decks where you simply don't have the time to spend 3 mana on a 2/2? There's a lot of value to be gained there, and when you're playing matchups like the Abzan Mirror match, it doesn't matter. It's just a good 2-for-1, and it's a solid card later on in the game. And there's plenty of matchups that are going to play out that way, but this is the first time we've really watched Nissa square off against an attacking deck, and it's the first time that Nissa has felt like a bit of an underperformer.
A little bit. But I was going to wait patiently here, and if we do get the opportunity to figure out what Bruce's question is, we'll find out what it is, but it's just a rules question away from the table. He's back now. That's why we have judges. Some of the very best here on the Open Series. Here's a Thoughtseize. Actually, a pretty important card here for Bruce.
Well, Logan's got 7 cards in hand and 3 mana up. I have a feeling Bruce is not going to like what he sees.
I don't think so either. Logan almost a little hesitant to show the hand. Maybe he wants to preemptively cast something. It's a little bit interesting.
Well, you get in a spot sometimes where, do I Stubborn Denial to protect the information, or are all of my cards of approximate equal value, and it's just worth it for my opponent to take 2 points of damage? And it looks like Logan's in the second camp, where Stubborn Denial might be the best card in this hand, but it's pretty replaceable.
Well, his hand's pretty good. You see 2 copies of Ajani's Presence, Stubborn Denial, Disdainful Stroke, along with Defiant Strike, Treasure Cruise, and Battle Wise Hoplite. It's hard to poke a hole in that one.
The only thing is now, Bruce knows that Abzan Charm is good in this spot, but if Logan Stubborn Denials the Thoughtseize, Bruce just kind of has to cast Abzan Charm. It's about his last opportunity to do so if he has it. And the upshot is, Bruce has taken 2 points of damage.
Yeah, this is true.
And you have a threat that's a 5/5 right now that's probably pretty easy to get to 8/8, but maybe not easy to get to 10/10. And so Bruce taking the 2 points of damage is significant.
And Bruce is going to evaluate his hand before he figures out what to take. Excuse me, he's at 8. No easy choice here. And depending on where Bruce thinks the game is going to go, he could select Treasure Cruise, but I'm not sure if that does all that much. Stubborn Denial seems like on the surface the easiest card to take, just because of the Abzan Charm that you mentioned. However, this is a Siege Rhino. And Logan looks like he's happy to let that resolve.
He does not care about that card.
Okay.
That Disdainful Stroke. Right now, Siege Rhino is just looking like a chump blocker. It's a roadblock right now. I think that Disdainful Stroke is probably slotted for Elspeth,
okay,
or something else of that level of threateniness. But Siege Rhino here, that buys Bruce a turn, maybe 2.
Gotcha.
Not worth a disdainful stroke.
Or deal with Thassa the draw. He'll play that. Trigger. Get the scry. Might as well be drawing 2 cards soon enough. With the right set of cards, he could actually win this turn. He's got 2 copies of Johnny's Presence, Defiant Strike in hand.
Yeah, he needs an unblockable effect.
Yep.
And I suspect Logan has mostly cut them from his deck. If he's setting up for playing the long game, making his creatures unblockable does not seem that powerful.
In this instance, a card like God's Willing is lights out. He'd be able to cast God's Willing, give his creatures protection from green, Defiant Strike of Johnny's Presence.
That's lethal.
Yeah, that's lethal. I don't know if he ran into one.
Well, it's that sequence that you just alluded to is worth 5 points, and he's got 7 in play right now,
Yep.
so that's 12.
Yeah. The big question is, did he find a God's Willing?
And now the question is he willing to fire off the Defiant Strike in hopes of finding it? Because he still has a draw.
Yep, it appears the answer is no. Siege Rhino, as you mentioned, is a chump blocker. That's exactly what it did. Logan does have the ability to play another Battle-Wise Hoplite here, and he will. With 2 mana available for a bunch of different stuff, most of which Bruce knows about, but it's unclear if Bruce can do anything about any of it.
His non-Obzon Charm removal spells are just no good.
Yep.
Any expensive, impactful play, Logan can counter with Disdainful Stroke. His creatures are of relatively little value right now because they just aren't big enough.
And this is going to flip. Much like how Siege Rhino was a roadblock, the token that Nissa makes is basically just a roadblock too. Edleman in some real trouble this game.
At this point, it feels like he's drawing fairly slim.
Yeah.
He needs to find Obzon Charm, Dem Protector for Obzon Charm, or find a way to push Elspeth through on back-to-back turns through the Disdainful Stroke. And that's asking a lot right now, and he does not have all that much time.
The one thing he can't do is worry about really what Logan draws. You know, he knows about the cards that are in Logan's hand, and they are all of extremely high quality given the situation, so he can't really play around anything. You know, he can't really worry about a card like God's Willing or anything like that. He just has to give himself the best chance. This is a card that's probably going to get Disdainful Stroked. Yep. Logan will have to take 2 to cast it thanks to having 2 mana confluence on the battlefield, but
Small price to pay.
yeah, I'd pay 2. I'd pay 2 life and 2 mana to counter an Elspeth. Mize will draw. God's Willing will wrap it up if he finds it. Well, look what he found. That's going to do it. Logan Mize is going to win this match over Bruce Edleman. 2 games to 1. He can breathe easy. He's 12-2. With 1 round left, he can draw to the top 8.
Congratulations. I mean, that was a tough round there. Losing that first game and then mulligan to 5 game 2, but you got to see the power of the deck on display when it's playing against those mid-range green decks. There's just too many spots where Bruce is spending 3 or 4 mana and Logan can bat it away for 1 or 2 mana. And when Logan already has the advantage in terms of aggression, it's hard to digest that many exchanges. And Logan won the card advantage battle too. I mean, he drew more cards over the course of that game.